Hare That was a good one.
Thank
I
you.
really like that tune. So just us here on Zoom, but we have Brent on Facebook, Rakesh Raghava, Jai Sri Radhe, Jean, Pampadas, and somebody else. Who else? Yeah, like 6 people on Facebook Live. So let's push ahead. What did we talk about last week? Does anybody remember?
We were talking about Narada Muni.
That was 2 weeks, right?
I'll quickly check, bro. Because today I think we are scheduled to talk about Kapila Muni, and last week it was we were talking about Narayan Prabhu. I'm sorry. So,
Right.
yes.
And when we think of Narayan, what comes to mind?
It's Krishna and Arjuna that comes to mind.
Tapasya.
Yes. We talked about austerities and the 2 impediments and the things that supports tapasya are determination and faith, and then we talked about it.
Excellent. And the week before that, we talked about Narada Muni. The only
Yes.
problem with this week is it's if you read the purport, it doesn't seem to be the Kapil that instructed his mother.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be a different Kapil of whom I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it was the Kapil that was the Devahutti Putra, son of Devahutti, we have information on that. But this Kapil, he talked to, what is it, Asri Brahmana? Brahmana?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any information? I don't have.
So what I studied is last evening I was just preparing for our discussion today, and I had this book of Kapila Muni, who's the son of Devahutti and Kadam Muni. So I also focused on the Kapila Muni that we know, not
Okay.
the Kapil Muni that was mentioned in the purport.
Okay. Well, we'll tap your brain then. We'll tap your brain. We'll talk a little about Kapil, and then if we exhaust topics about Kapil, I did my own homework on Rishabh. So
Okay,
between
okay.
those two, we should fill the time. So in terms of checking in, everybody check in. Just the two of us, I guess. If anybody on Facebook, you want to write in the comment section, you want to check in significant occurrence in your life during the past week, please go ahead and share that with us. Um, um, I'm not
So
sure
we
what I
start.
could say is the most significant. We saw Lucky off. Lucky's one of our members the last 11 years. Last night's feast in Salt Lake City was sponsored by Lucky, and parts of it were cooked by Lucky. We heard Lucky give his farewell address, and even his wife Bativa stepped up and gave a nice sort of benediction. He got a job in Houston, so after 11 years in Salt Lake City, he'll be relocating to Houston. What we liked about Lucky was that he is a very practical person. Many people from the Indian community are involved in technology and IT, so they don't know how to fix a dripping water tap or tinker with the car or put the water in the swamp cooler. Uh, uh, Not that Westerners automatically know how to do that. We're not stereotyping anybody because I'd be hard pressed to do those above things as well. But Lucky was, really good, really practical. You didn't have to hesitate in asking him to look at the swamp cooler or check out a dripping faucet. He also installed the whole slideshow, the slide projection technique in the old auditorium. He arranged that. He saved us thousands of dollars just last winter by getting we had experts come in and told us we had to spend $7,000 to $10,000 replacing the furnace. But he just found a little bolt that needed to be tightened, and then the furnace was working perfectly. So it saved us like $7,000 just as recently as last winter. And then the other thing about Lucky is his laugh. Lucky has a unique laugh, and he uses it often. So whenever Lucky's at the Sunday feast, he's there because there's always a big group of people. He usually includes his good friend Kapil, and they're both like just laughing, 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 laughing. And whenever there's a group of people that are laughing, everybody else looks over and they like, well, what was the joke? What's so funny? Why are they so happy? And so between Lucky and Kapil on a Saturday night, it's like the life of the party. So that was a big thing I have to report from last week. How about you? How about you all?
The same thing. He is going. We will miss him immensely. And as you said yesterday, it is a bittersweet. It is indeed a bittersweet. I think more bitter than sweet, but it will be sweet in 6 7 months when he's going to come back.
Yeah,
Once you are a U-turn, you are always a U-turn. So I think that's what. And I know that uh, he shows that spirit of Utah. And the reason I say that is the camaraderie, the focus on his family. I think it's a very difficult decision for him to take. After spending 11 years, the kind of camaraderie, friendship, the families that we have built here, after that, taking this decision to go to a newer place, obviously a big city, but I think we are a very big association here. So we are definitely going to miss him. And he's one of my best buddies here. So I'm going to miss him immensely.
Kapil went on record. Kapil went public last night. He picked up the microphone and he made a public prediction that Lucky would be back within 6 months.
Ishan, what do you have to say?
So I had my first Mridang class Thursday
Oh,
morning.
oh,
So yeah, it's very nice. And she's going on a vacation for a few weeks, and then like my next class will be in late August, and then after that it'll be a weekly thing.
well, you'll have plenty of time to practice the new beats that you learn, won't you?
Yeah, yeah. So that's what she had me like write down like five or I think like seven beats, and she said just like practice these until the next time. So.
How do you write down a beat?
So you have like the names. sorry, my notebook's over there. But so you have like the names or of each sound, like an open on the this side is ghe, and then open on both sides is de. So like that, and then there's also like a way you write them. Like there's a symbols. So like an open circle means open on this side, and then like four lines means four fingers on the left side. So yeah, so like there's also symboling.
You've already got beats to practice even now before your
Yeah.
first class. Excellent. I guess that's what it's all about. It's just practice, practice, and then what else? Oh yeah, more practice. So you've got plenty of that.
Both Ishan and Shivan, they spend at least 45 minutes to an hour every day on three or four of these instruments that they have, either on their guitar, this keyboard they have, the mridanga and harmonium. But I think the harmonium and mridanga are the winners.
Well, look at Jai Krishna. You know Jai Krishna. You all know Jai Krishna, right?
Yes, yes.
He plays harmonium. He plays mridanga. He sings. He has three pipe bands. He has three of the bagpipe bands. He has an Irish pipe band. Um, I don't know how many instruments he plays. But one time he asked his wife, "Do you think I should learn this?" I forget what instrument but he was asking his wife, "Do you think I should learn this other instrument as a hobby?" And she looks at him. She says, "Your whole life is a hobby." You know, I mean, I mean, he loves yoga, and so he has a martial arts studio. It doubles as a yoga studio. So he has the foremost yoga studio. Utah Valley is the foremost martial arts studio. He's involved in 5 or 6 different bands. He comes almost every Sunday for the last 35 years, leads kirtan, and she gives the talk. I mean, he doesn't he doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do. He doesn't have to worry about bosses and deadlines and worrying about salary or worrying about office politics or being replaced, because he's pursuing the things that he's good at and the things that he loves. He's got his own independence, and which is a very special, valuable thing. Other people may be earning $100,000 a year, but they're tied hand and foot um, to the demands of the job and all. So it's nice. It's nice to have hobbies, because oftentimes those hobbies can turn into a livelihood and quite a good one as well. But it's not that you take up a hobby in order to get an income. You take up a hobby because it gives you deep satisfaction. Um, but when you're doing things that deeply satisfy you, you'll find that income comes your way. Income chases you down. You don't have to chase it down. So Jai Krishna is not a rich person, but he is paying his mortgage since so many years. He has the cars that he needs. His kids are educated and good kids, and he's happy. He's one happy guy. Maybe on there up there on a level with Lucky. I don't know. Lucky and Kapil.
So
And
that is the reason. That is
your
the reason
dad's your dad's a good example too. I mean, he's in the hot seat. He's in one of the biggest corporations of the world, but he doesn't get involved in criticizing or competition, talking about people, defending himself. He's very good at loving people. He's very good with people. He likes people. People like him, and so he's also it's not like he's chasing a livelihood, but rather the livelihood is chasing him. People want this kind of person. I saw a statistic one time that people that get ahead in companies, they get ahead mostly because of their people skills. That's more important than the actual technological skills they have. There are many people who are technologically expert, but they never get a job or they never get ahead in the job. On the other hand, people who like people and who don't talk bad and don't get involved in factions and politics, their sky's the limit for them, and their technical expertise is secondary.
Caru, thank you so much. I think speaking of Jai Krishna Prabhu and people like him, there was this quote that came to mind when they say that if you love what you do every day, then you don't have to work a single day.
If you love what you do every single day, then you don't have to work a single day. Did everyone get that on Facebook too? Jayarada said of Krishna consciousness in general, the same thing is true of Krishna consciousness in general. We Prabhupada once was asked in Australia by a reporter, "What do you do for work?" And Prabhupada said, "Work?" He said, "We work harder than you." He says, "I'm an old man. I'm in my late 70s. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or I actually probably used to get up at midnight, translate throughout the night. I'm traveling all over the world." I said, we work harder than you. But he said, we don't toil. We don't toil. Ours is a labor of love. See? Uh, so in the sense that work is, mass moved a certain distance, requiring a certain amount of energy, of course we work, but we don't toil. We don't toil. We do what we love. Jai Sri Radha is also an example. She runs her store in Florida. She enjoys serving the temples with deity paraphernalia, and the livelihood chases her down. It follows her. There are many, many examples. Surabi, what was your most significant occurrence during this past week?
Uh, Everything, as you said, hobbies. I too have few hobbies which keep me engaged when I'm off the work. As you said, like if you, like Kapil Prabhu said that if you love your work, so sometimes they see my work and they say, why don't you take this as your main job? I said, but I love my work as well. The time I spend in the office, I love that too. Maybe after retirement, I will do that.
I never ask you what kind of work do you do? What's your quote unquote job?
So, Prabhu, I am software engineer QA,
Uh-huh.
quality assurance.
Ah,
So,
cha, cha.
yeah. So that's why I worked before in Mahajan's company, the Tomex and Salesforce. Now
Uh-huh.
I'm working in a Verisis company,
Okay.
which is doing the uh, verification of all the providers, doctors, nurses, and people who work in the hospital industry.
Excellent, excellent. Ashish just moved on from Tomax also. He's with Salesforce last few years as well.
Yes, so Salesforce, the Tomex CEO, he sold his company to Demandware, and Demandware got acquired.
Mm,
So I was in Salesforce for 2 years as well, but then there was a laying off and all that. So I saw my project is coming to the end, so I switched.
excellent, excellent. All right. We don't have a picture, but Rob is there. Can you hear us, Rob?
I can. I hope my signal is sufficient. I'm on my way home right now.
No, you're coming through loud and clear.
But yeah, so my week was pretty good. I had my son for most of it, and that was really wonderful to have him, to spend time with him. But I would have to say that probably the real highlight of my week was getting to sit down with you, Charudas Prabhuji, and speak with you and to read some of the Back to Godhead with you. Which my copy finally came in, and so I've barely touched into starting to read it, but I'm excited to read through it and take away the messages that are in it.
We're very fortunate because Rob has to pick up his son in Fillmore and then deposit him in Fillmore, and that takes him within 3 miles of the temple. And so we were just in Sundar Arti yesterday evening or Friday evening, and finishing up with the Nishringa prayers, and in comes Rob, having just taken his son back to Fillmore. So we sat down. It was a very quiet, beautiful summer evening. We had a little prasadam. We talked about this and that and the other thing. We recently sponsored a subscription to Back to Godhead, and I told him that usually Ilya, who does that, will send out the current issue, so you won't have to wait 2 months to get the next one. And we talked about this and that and the other thing. It was very relaxing, very kicked back. I really enjoyed it. On the other hand, we didn't get a chance to talk at all last night because of all that was going on with Lucky and the beautiful kirtans and everything. It was really special. So yeah, stop in. Don't don't go past us without stopping in and feeding a carrot to a llama or feeding yourself or whatever. So I skipped past and went on to Rishab, but Kapil has done some research and homework on, well, it's not surprising. I mean, what would the mystery be there that Kapil would research Kapil? Like,
Selfishly, Prabhu, selfishly.
do you know which Kapil your parents had in mind when they named you? There are several.
Prabhu, you will laugh. Surbhi's already started laughing. I'll let Surbhiji answer that question. Surbhiji, which Kapil do you think? I was born in 80s. So
Oh, Kapildev, the cricketer.
A movie star, right? A movie star.
he was a captain of our Indian cricket team.
Oh,
First ever World Cup in the, during that time, and then after that India won another one.
okay. All right. Rakesh is a cricket aficionado also.
Yes.
He's on the Facebook thing there. What do you think about that, Rakesh? Kapil's namesake. But anyway, Kapil is Kapil. It's absolute, right? So, I mean, even if you're thinking of a cricket player, still, if you say Kapil, right, it's touchstone. It's magic. So it works its effect. Ajamil was calling out his youngest son. He wasn't thinking of Narayan, but his youngest son happened to be named Narayan. So in his fear and terror at the time of death, he called out the name of his youngest son, and it says, I am he krita nirvisho, janmakoti amasha, yadvyajara, nama shwastino mahat. The Vishnu Dutas told the Yamadutas that because he cried out the name of Narayan, even without thinking of Narayan or intending Narayan, still that one recitation of the name has destroyed more sins than he could commit in this lifetime. And it even goes on to say more sins than he could commit in millions and millions of lifetimes. And so powerful and purifying is the name. So Kapil, do you want to tell us about Kapil? And we're already like launched for spiritual advancement just having said the name Kapil so many times. So whatever you can say will be extra.
We're just trying to be going against my nature, trying to be humble and modest. And Vinita, she's very shy to come in these forums. So last evening we thought that this could be a good thing for her to tell and talk about Kapil a bit. So this is her debut. This is her debut on this. So let's hear from her first, and then Ishan and I'll pitch in.
First, can I say that her being right in the center of your picture there with the kind of pale background and then the husband wearing a gray shirt, but her with her beautiful smile and white teeth and long hair and beautiful green dress, without even having said anything, she's made our day. She's actually the jewel there in the Sharma picture. Now we can start by reading the verse in the purport.
Yes.
As we always do.
Okay. पंचम है कपिलो नाम सिद्धेश है काल्पितुतम प्रोवाचे असुरे सांख्यम तत्वग्राम विनिर्णयम. The first incarnation, named Lord Kapila, is foremost among perfected beings. He gave an exposition of the creative elements and metaphysics of Asuri Brahmana, for in course of time this knowledge had been lost. The sum total of creative elements is 24 in all. Each and every one of them is explicitly explained in the system of Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy is generally called metaphysics by the European scholars. The The etymological meaning of Sankhya is that which explains every lucidly by analysis of the material elements. This was done for the first time of Lord Kapila, who is said herein to be the fifth in the line of incarnations.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is Shankya Kapil. It's not the same Kapil that instructed his mother, apparently, right?
Prabhu, now Ishan will tell us that. I'm putting people on the spot today. That's what I do, Prabhu.
So Kapil is a puppet master, and the family members are puppets.
Prabhu, I like to moderate things, so sometimes forcefully.
Kapil has his own show. When is it? When is it? People can
The
join.
Kapil Sharma show.
When's the Kapil show? Not the cricket master, but the when is it?
Yes,
On
yes,
Saturday. On Saturday, isn't it?
yes, Prabhu.
Get together with a few families on Saturday, and Kapil moderates.
Yes, Prabhu. So Saturday morning we read. So after my Bhakti Shastri, we read Bhagavad Gita with a group of friends and family.
Wonderful. So Ishan, you're next.
Well, so I'm looking at the book Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahutti, and in the foreword it has like very similar aspects to what was in the purport. So I'm pretty sure they are talking about the same person. Like it talks about what the like in the foreword, like there is a paragraph that talks about Sankhya philosophy, and um, like it is an interesting to know at this point that after that long after Lord Kapila's descent, an imitation Kapila appeared on the Indian subcontinent and propounded a non-theistic Sankhya, that which is generally studied as Sankhya in the contemporary academic context is actually this later non-theistic materialistic Sankhya. So I think it is talking about the same person.
Okay, so Kapil expounded Sankhya philosophy to his mother,
Yes.
and then
Yes,
this
Prabhuji.
other person did a sort of a imitation version of it some centuries later.
Yes.
Okay.
And Prabhu, when we were reading about it last evening, the first question that comes to the mind is, okay, after like behind every incarnation there is a purpose, and we all know that Krishna says that yada yada hi dharmasya or paritarnaya sadhunam, there are reasons for which Lord Krishna comes and but for Lord Kapila, when we were reading, in addition to that, there was another reason that was mentioned, that he came for a sole purpose of imparting this transcendental knowledge and to enlighten us. And I think that was the whole premise of his incarnation, and having this dialogue and conversation at the back of some of the questions that were being asked by his mother Devahutti. So he was son of Kadam Mooney and Devahutti asked questions, and most of these questions were around the miseries that were caused by sense gratification. And rather than just jumping on this topic of sense gratification and how this could be one of the impediments between you and achieving the supreme abode, he did talk about metaphysics first, or the Sankhya, which I think in the European theology they call it metaphysics, the study around all the elements in the material world. And he said that for you to understand that, let's focus on these two elements, which were also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, uh, the supreme and the living entity. And then there is a brief mention of the nature, like what distincts between the distinction between the nature of supreme personality of God versus the living entities. Why do we do what we do, and what are some of the driving forces? He does talk about that. And then there's not much mention in those chapters about the karmas and the time, the impact of time. But I think the first three aspects were very well covered: the Lord, the relationship with living entities, and their nature.
We had a visit from a couple of sannyasis from Swami Narayan. They were visiting Salt Lake City. I think they want to. Their hope is to build a temple here, which I mean, personally, I don't think. I think we have good temples.
Yes.
No need to divide everything further. But anyway, I many years ago there were a couple sannyasis that visited. And they were in Dinesh Patel's home, and they were giving a talk, which was all in Gujarati. They didn't speak English. I didn't speak Gujarati, But one verse they like to quote is Prashangam Ajaram Pusham Atmanokavya Sayavasadashi Moksha Dwaram Upavidham. Moksha Dwaram Upavidham. Moksha means liberation. Dwara is the door. Upavidham means the door is open. The door to liberation is open. So what is it that opens the door to liberation? This is the Swaminarayan sannyasis quoting Kapil, and the answer is that the door to bondage, the door to hellish condition, is through association, through bad association. But the door to liberation does not mean to negate association. It just means to take better association. Asat sange tyagi. Tyagi means to give up the association of worldly people, people that are interested in temporal things, and to seek the association of satsang. Satsang means those people who are interested in that which is not temporary. Those people are interested in that which is permanent. What is that verse? Asato mad sadgamaya tamasho mad jyotirgamaya manitam mad amritam gamayam shanti 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 hi. We pray, take me from that which is temporary, asad tad gamayo sad, to that which is permanent, tamasho mad jyotirgamaya, from the dark to the light, mritum amanitam manitam, from death to eternality. And so Kapil is telling his mother that whereas association can drag you down, the right kind of association throws open the door to liberation.
Yes, bro. And bro, it is such a coincidence that one of the book that I was reading has the 12th text from the 3rd canto, 7th chapter, and that talks about this association bit. So I'll read from that a very brief purport. It says, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desires for the transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path to the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Now, in the purport, it was mentioned that Lord Kapila was very much satisfied by his mother's questions because the answers stimulate one's desire for liberation from this conditional life. And those who are actually spiritual in transcendence are called Sat. So he talks about the distinction between Sat, who are the devotees, and Satam Pragansati, which says Sat means that which eternally exists, and Asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not Sat, he is Asat. The Asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. And when he gives that example, he says that those who are Sat are thus transcendentalists, advanced in spiritual life, and when they hear questions from those who want to understand spiritual life, they became very happy. And Charu Prabhu, this reminds me when we were in the Spanish folk temple, we were at a dining table with a few of the first time visitors, newcomers, and you said that someone said that I have a question, and you told them that to a Krishna devotee, if you give me a check of $1,000 or $5,000 versus ask me I have a question, you'll see the light in my eyes in the third option when someone says I have a question.
It says when Sutta Goswami came amongst the sages at Naimisharanya, they said, Mooney asadya prishta hamba vaibhya loka yat krita krishna yat mashuprasidate. They said, tell us something about Krishna. They said, if you don't want to talk about Krishna, we don't want to hear. But if you have something to tell us about Krishna, we want to hear. We're all ears. We're sitting on the edge of our seats. Munya sadyo prishto ham. Munyo sadyo. Sadyo, the word sadhu comes from sad, or it comes from sad. So naturally, the sadhus, they were gathered there to honor Krishna. They didn't know the proper way to do it in this age of Kali. They were trying to perform a fire sacrifice. They weren't getting the desired realization. And so when Sutta Goswami arrived fresh from his meeting with Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami, they recognized that Krishna was bailing them out of the situation. Krishna was sending a representative to give them the Yuga Dharma, the proper process for tasting the essence of spiritual life in the age of Kali. Bodhini Bodhini Kamani Sotabhyani Atasa Jasana Samudra Bruhi Badre Bhutram. They said, we can understand that you're just the right person to give us the saram, to give us the essence. And why do we do sacrifices? Why do we do austerities? Why do we study the scriptures? Why do we give in charity? And so you're here to give us the why. And so they were extremely eager. It's like a boy and a girl. She's the one, he's the one. We've all, we see that romanticized in Bollywood movies and all. That's the perverted reflection. That's the way that people who are contaminated by lust react to each other. And the relationship is very lucky if it works out. Most of those relationships that lust at first sight, they don't endure. When the original infatuation wears off, then the relationship is over. But the keenness and the purity of the sages at Naimishranya and the keenness and the purity of Sutta Goswami make a perfect match. And that relationship is eternal. That's the eternal relationship between the spiritually realized soul and his disciples, between the speaker and the listeners. Just like the Ganges flows uninterruptedly from the spiritual world and purifies the upper and the middle and the lower planetary systems, so the topics about Krishna coming down to us through the disciplic succession from the realized souls, they flow eternally. They flow eternally. And what they ignite is the eternal love of God, which is within the heart of each and every living being.
Yes.
So one thing is the Swami Narayan sect from Gujarat, as you well know, they worship a guru who appeared many thousands of years ago, whose name was Swami Narayan. And Swami Narayan was a great devotee of Krishna. I visited their headquarters in Akshardham in Gujarat, and there are so many stories from the Mahabharata, so many stories of Krishna. Swami Narayan seems to me, a bona fide guru, a genuinely Krishna realized person. Now we worship such a person, but we don't worship them as God. It's explained there's the worshipable God and then there's the worshiper God. So the worshiper is a representative of God. The worshiper is always thinking about God, talking about God, singing God, cooking prasadam to offer to God. So we get to the worshipable God through the worshiper God. That's why we have a seat. That's why we sing prayers to our guru. That's why there are so many scriptural verses which say the spiritual master is non-different from the Lord, but he's non-different because he's a representative. The spiritual master does not become God. The spiritual master does not become God. So if you go to Swami Narayan temple, Swami Narayan is a big statue in the middle of the altar, and Krishna is a small statue on the side. Enough said. Enough said. Swami Narayan sannyasis are amazing. They are learned, they're sweet, they're peaceful, they're compassionate, they're self-controlled. But one difference is that we worship the spiritual master as the worshiper God. Following Radharani, they worship the spiritual master as the worshipable God. That's the difference. I feel I had to mention that as part of our discussion. Now, let me ask you this, since you did your homework, Kapil. What's a time period? When did Kapil speak Bhagavat Dharma to his mother? In what cosmic season?
Oh, I haven't done my homework correctly.
Does Ishan or we need to know that?
I just said that the Maitre Muni was there, and then Kadam Muni, he left the place, and now this is conversation between Mother Devahutti and Lord Kapila. But now we have Amrita Sundari Mataji. She might know more about.
Oh, yeah, of course. Amrita Sundari, can you tell us about the timing of Kapildev and the color of Kapildev? Some of those interesting facts.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance to all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to assembled devotees. I'm not sure. What I understand is Devahuti is Swambhu Manu's daughter, so that's pretty young in the creation time. Probably Satya Yuga, like the beginning, first day of Brahma or something.
Yes, Satya Yuga.
Yeah.
Kapil is the Yuga avatar for Satya Yuga. What color is he?
Golden? No, his hair was golden.
Oh,
Something I remember.
he had blonde hair. I didn't know that.
Huh? Yeah, something about gold. He said his hair was gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, the Yuga avatar for Satya Yuga is Kapil, and his color is white.
White, yeah, Shweta.
Tough head, right?
For the Satya Yuga. Yeah, it should fit.
Tough head. So what color is next Yuga?
So next is Treta. Treta is reddish.
Reddish. And does anybody know who that is? Some say Hayagriva. One time I heard Prabhupada, I asked Prabhupada, I said, who is the red incarnation? And Prabhupada said, Krishna Garba, I think.
Yeah, usually there is not much information on the incarnations as per the colors and the yoga timings. It's just mentioned that, Krishna comes like this, but there is no particular information given.
What's his color in Dwapara Yuga?
Dwapara is black.
Blackish. Yeah. And the color in Kali Yuga?
Gold and Lord Chaitanya.
Okay. So, Kapil's father was Kardama Mooney, who was a very renounced ascetic. And so, let me ask you this. Kapila Mooney was doing severe austerities. He was Krishna conscious. Why did he want a wife? Why? I mean, usually, for instance, the Prachetas, Daksha sent the Prachetas off to do austerities, and with the idea that they would then get married. But Narada Muni came to them and said, "You guys are already perfect. You're already Krishna conscious. Why get entangled? Why go back to home and get married and have kids? And you're right. You're well situated now." So he actually convinced them to stay with the path of renunciation as being more simple and more direct. So, why did Kardamuni want to get married? Anybody remember why?
I mean, I'm not read it. I'm not sure, but my understanding is that he knew that the Lord was going to appear as his son, or probably he was praying for something like that. See, he's not like an ordinary person who was wanting the wife only for sense gratification. We see even when he married Devahutti, he was busy in his samadhi for many years, and after a point, he gets very grateful to Devahutti because of her sacrifice and the way she served him and lost all her charm and youth in serving him. And that's when he gratifies her. He creates this viman and everything. But inherently, though he approached the Lord, and he says this also that I should not ask you for anything other than liberation, but I'm asking you for a good wife. And I'm thinking these great sages, even if they present themselves like that, he must be sure that either the Lord was going to appear to him as the son, or he wanted a son. Many great devotees wanted a son like the Lord. I mean, just like, people would accuse Devahuti and not Devaki and Vasudev. Why did they produce children if they were getting killed one after another? They were not doing it for sense gratification. They were wanting Krishna to appear, and they were willing to do their part as a sacrifice.
Wow, great insights. Great insights. So Karda Mooney, he says, I want to serve the Lord better. And sometimes that's the case. So we can't be totally dissuaded from married life because of the many statements glorifying renunciation. We're going to talk about Rishabdev next week, and he's, my gosh, Mayam Pramatasya Vanasupi Syad Yatasha Stesan. He says sense gratification is so strong that even when you leave the family, you leave the wife and kids and go into the forest, you're still living with 6 co-wives, which include the 5 senses in the mind. So he says, attachment, the hard knot of attachment is so strong that even if you physically leave, you'll still be harassed by the 5 senses of mind, even in the forest. And how many people in retired life, they leave their family, they go to Vrindavan in order to worship Krishna, but not being sufficiently advanced to absorb themselves in the chanting and devotional practices, they find a new alliance. They find a new girlfriend there right in the holy dham. So there's a lot of statements about controlling the senses, especially with connection with the opposite sex, because that's the big knot. That's the knot. And when a man meets a woman, then the knot gets tighter, and it becomes very difficult. In fact, one cannot undo that knot on one's own. Even amidst all these statements, I was doing my homework on Rishabh this morning, and Prabhupada, after this whole several paragraphs about how so many men have fallen down and gotten attached and absorbed in family life, but Prabhupada then, and at the end, there's 2 sentences that said, of course, it's not common, it's not the standard, but there are precedents that one does better service with a good Krishna conscious wife. And who he cites an example as none other than Lord Brahma. He said there are examples for instance, with Lord Brahma, where having a good wife enhances one's Krishna consciousness and opens opportunities for service. I have to say that I'm lucky in that connection. I smile. I like people, and I like to talk to people, and I like festivals, and I like things. So, but what would I do with those talents, unless I could, someone gives a donation or someone becomes a member, I don't know what to do with it. I give it to Bhai Bobby, gives me a check for $100, say, Bhai Bobby, go spend it, Look at what's behind me there. She's totally renounced,
Yes.
She was driving a Honda Civic, a secondhand Honda Civic with 120. She went out and bought it because she needed a car. Honestly, there's finances there, but this is Bhai Bobby. She didn't want anything for herself. This is 3 or 4 years ago. She went out and bought a secondhand Honda Civic with 120,000 miles on it. That's what she bought for a car. She could have gotten something much better, but that's just Bhai Bobby. You give her $1,000 and she's going to spend it on something like that temple there or the temple in Salt Lake City. Right. And now she's making these beautiful paintings for Salt Lake City. Already Salt Lake City Temple is just a gorgeous inner city temple. There's nothing like it anywhere in America. But when she puts these paintings up on the walls, there's already 3 there. But I think the 2 that she's working on now are just total conversation pieces. They're just going to blow people are going to come from all over Salt Lake City, just like they come to Spanish Fork. They're going to come to see the art inside the temple. So definitely, I don't know what I would do with my talents. I don't know how I would dovetail them or what the result would be, but Krishna sent me Bhai Bobby in order to increase my service.
Yeah, last week we were in Boise with Hanumat Preksha Maharaj, and he was addressing a conference. I believe it was interfaith, and this is in South America. So one of the ladies got up and she was how does your religion treat women, you know? And Maharaj was like, he could understand that she was very intense. And so he quoted from Srila Prabhupada. I forget which chapter, but in one of the purports, I think in the Bhishma Dev's advice to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So he quotes exactly what Srila Prabhupada says, that women are more powerful than men. And that's why, you know, they have to control their power by chastity and shyness so that they can be proper inspiration for men, you know. And you know, we know Prabhupada doesn't write things which he doesn't mean, right? So, you know, I mean, yes, you know, you both are great, and Vevima has her own strengths and her own inspiration for both the communities. And I've seen the paintings; they're amazing. While she was working last month in May I saw them. Yeah, and they're just huge, and the delicate lines and the colors Mataji chooses, just amazing.
And I mean, you know, I'm just speaking my own experience, but just look at Kapil and Benita and their two sons. What a wonderful Krishna conscious family. What a great couple. Kapil, Sarabi, and her husband, Sutosh, were there last night. Your son is so handsome. Oh, he's such a good looking boy. Wow. I can tell he's meant to do things. And then, of course, Amrita Sundari, God, we could just turn the whole time over to you, you know, just drinking the nectar from your realizations. What a great couple that you are, you know. Ras Vilas out there doing his scientific research and cooking, and then those two boys of yours whose intelligence are off the chart. So, that, you know, in all of this, there's a spirit of detachment. There's a constant awareness that it's temporary. In seventh canto of Bhagavatam says, Bhutanami asambhasha prapayam vishuvate deve naikatar unitam unitar sham chakarma vihi. We come together based on our previous circumstances, our previous action. Karma means action, and for every action is opposite and equal reaction. So we take birth in certain families. We grow up in those families. We get married. We marry into another family. We produce children. And we live together, and we interact, and we get very close to each other, and we naturally share. We actually affect each other in terms of our consciousness. But then, after the demise, at the end of our lives, we then have to go off our different directions. And the example is given that in a little whirlwind. You see these little whirlwinds on the ground. They pick up bits of straw and little twigs and things like that, and they keep them together for some time, but then they're dispersed in the end. And so we come together like little bits of straw in a whirlwind, and we call ourselves family and country. But in the Krishna consciousness, we're always aware that at the time of death, we can take all the input and all the enrichment from our family members and our extended family, the devotees, but we have to fly our own plane. You know, it's our relationship with Krishna is our relationship with Krishna. No one else can do it for us. Ante kale chamameva shmaran mukba kalevana. When the great stress and trauma of leaving this body arrives, we have to be fixed up enough in our Krishna consciousness that we can muster up the recollection of Krishna. Others can help us, others can equip us, others can fortify us. But ultimately, it's we who are going to have to fly our own plane. And that awareness keeps us in a spirit of detachment and renunciation, even in the workplace, even in the family circle. So the knowledge, the difference between the devotees might be raising a family, they might be living in a house, paying a mortgage, going to work. But the difference is between a devotee and is the knowledge which comes from hearing. That is the sword which cuts the hridaya granthim, the tight knot of false ego. So anyway, Caru Mooney wanted to get a wife so he could do better Krishna consciousness. Tell us a little bit more about his aerial city and all, Amrita Sundari. Tell us that background story.
So yeah, so as he was pleased with Devahuti's sacrifice and his devotion and her devotion to him. He asks her what he can do for her, and she wants to have a child from Kardama Muni. And but she is very conscious of her appearance. She has become very skinny, her hair is entangled, she's lost all her charm. And then just give me 1 second. So he understands her needs, and then he creates from his yogic power, he creates many maids who give her the bath in the sacred pond in their ashram, and she regains her youth. And then he creates this aerial mansion, which flies at the direction of your mind. It is so opulent that even the denizens of heaven aspire for it.
And he does all this from his yogic powers, isn't it?
Exactly, all of it. And it's so huge, and he creates these many maidservants, and then the bed is described as like as white as clouds, the curtains, the furniture, the pillars, the canopy, Bhagavatam describes in great detail all the opulence. So the idea is, nothing you cannot. The other day I was reading a line. Srila Prabhupada says in the 16th chapter of the first canto, Srila Prabhupada gives this one line. He says, happiness is the result of following dharma individually and collectively. So even the material happiness that we are enjoying right now, or we aspire to enjoy, has to come by following the Lord's laws, either now or in the past life. So by serving Krishna, he has access to the powers that all of the materialists put together cannot create anything like what he created in a moment, just like that. And the aerial mansion flew to different celestial parts, different planets of the Jambudvipa, and they enjoyed, and they were served, the food they ate, the clothes they wear, just everything was beyond what we can even think of right now. But then the interesting thing is, as soon as Lord Kapildev was born, again Kardama Muni just set off. He didn't stay for a second. As his desire, his plan, he just stuck to it. He was not influenced by any of it. So that's very amazing. And even Devahutti, we see through her story that after living a life of austerity and then opulence and gratification, and again she realizes, no, I don't want this gratification and opulence. Kapildev, she tells her son, just please educate me. I want to be free from this material nature. It's very attractive. It's very pleasing, but then it doesn't satisfy the soul, and I want to get out of it.
Wow, I have to thank you for that narration. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to add something? Did you get any realizations while Amrita Sundari was telling that story? I mean, it's obvious that, there is a way to be a husband and a wife and a father and a mother without getting entangled. It's not possible for ordinary people, but if you sufficiently hear, if you're diligent and careful about hearing regularly and chanting and eating prasadam, it's not, it's rare, but it is doable. And Kapila, Mooney, and Devahutti and Kardama are a beautiful example of walking that rope for the benefit of the Lord. Got married, they had a child, that was their service. Did not get into it. Anybody else want to expound upon that further?
I just messaged Amrita Priya Mataji to tell me which canto she read this.
Oh, third canto.
I wanted to go slow with you. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to read Bhagavatam like a novel. So I will go and read that. So I'm not running. So I'm on the first canto with you guys here. Now I will read what she has mentioned in that.
Third canto, Surubi. It's third canto.
Excellent. And then we're going to talk about fifth canto next week. But this is a good prelude. This is actually a very good preparation to then go to Rishabh, who was very renounced. Extremely. I mean, he raised children, and he's also a good example of what we're talking about, because he had 100 sons, and in fact, his teachings consist of the advice that he gave to his sons when he left his kingdom and went to do austerities, and he did severe austerities. But he did have a wife, he did have sons. So he was also, I mean, let's face it, most of the devotees went through householder life, but they went through it successfully. They navigated it from one end to another. And the difference is knowledge, the knowledge that you get passed down into disciplic succession. That's why in the traditional times, no student would get married without the permission of the spiritual master. If you want to get married so badly, you have to have this girl, and you don't want to ask the spiritual master because you're afraid he'll say no. That's not a good sign. No, it's not a good sign. Prabhupada even said in his youth he wanted to marry a certain girl who was very good looking. But his father said it would be better for your spiritual life if you marry this other girl who is plain. Prabhupada followed his father, who was his guru in that respect. He married them. And he was able to leave when it was necessary to leave and touch the whole world. So, Rob, you've been silent. Are you still within earshot? I want to hear your takeaway from all of this. Rob has a different experience. He didn't go through a perfect family life. He went to a ragged, tough time. It's still tough for him, but Krishna has a way to take what even seems to be meant for our harm and use it for our good. And nobody's better than extracting those lessons in Rob. So I don't know if he can hear us.
I am here, Prabhuji.
Okay.
I'm sure there are many that are far better at extracting the wisdom. Of course, all your words are wisdom, so I appreciate that. Yes, my situation you summed up quite well. I was definitely in a relationship that was complete Maya. It was infatuation. It was very materialistic, and it ended pretty tragically. And I'm still dealing with the fallout and the aftermath of that. But like you said, Krishna has a way of making what seems like even the worst situation come out for your good. Because had it not been for this relationship, had it not been for the tragedy of how it fell apart, I would have not come to Krishna consciousness. I would have not surrendered to Krishna. I would have not found solace in association with the other devotees. And because of that, my spirituality is so much stronger than if I had been in a picturesque or perfect relationship. At least from the materialistic standpoint of things. And lust really gets us nowhere good. And I have found that out firsthand. However, I now have a wonderful, beautiful son that has also been very critical in my spirituality. It was a very, very big motivating factor for me to become more spiritual, to become more cleansed of my material attachment. Because of him, because that's the kind of life and example that I want for him. And so even when I have him, I feel like it's harder for me to make meetings and to be more active and engaged. But his mere presence reminds me constantly that I need to be focused on Krishna. I need to be focused on my spirituality. And so I've received two wonderful blessings: the blessing of desperation that brought me to Krishna, and the blessing of the constant reminder that I received through the presence of my son.
Krishna's so kind that he'll even take our mistakes. He'll even take our bad choices and give us good from them. So you've got to come to Krishna consciousness, and anybody who's met Kel would never doubt for a moment that Kel is a blessing. You didn't earn it with good choices, but Krishna loves us. Krishna gives us slack, he gives us grace, and Kel is the gift that Krishna gave to you. So it all indicates the goodness of Krishna's heart. We shouldn't go out of our way to make mistakes depending upon the mercy of Krishna. We should try to love him and follow his instructions to the best of our ability. But hey, this is before you came to Krishna conscious. You didn't know. Yet there was an innocence there that now is turning everything up to be favorable for Krishna consciousness. So, well said, Rob. Well
It
said.
was definitely my poor decisions that got me to this point. So I have to be grateful for them, even though they were poor decisions.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all about gratitude. It's all about thanking Krishna that he helps us out. He blesses us in spite of ourselves. Jai Sri Radhi says, all our miseries bring us to Krishna.
Mhm.
And she says also, Krishna is so beyond the level kind. She says also, when you describe the aerial city, Jai Sri Radhi says, the real UFO. When I was talking about flying the plane ourselves at the time of death, I've already put an icon of an airplane in there. A lot of good comments here from all of our Facebook components there. Okay, so Rob gave us his takeaway. We've heard a lot of beautiful nectar from Amrita Sundari. Do you want to say one last thing, Amrita Sundari?
Um, well, to conclude, I guess Krishna always has a grand plan for us. I mean, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but then Krishna has already covered for them, you know. But yes, we suffer for our mistakes. So the sooner we come to know what is good for us and bad for us, and we have the determination to stay on choosing, it's all about choices. And I was thinking we have to make choices every second in one sense. We are always making choices. But then Shastra, they say reading scriptures and discussing like this give us the sense of discrimination. And chanting attentively gives us the determination to stay on those discriminations. So just like as you said, you know, as we read and study and, you know, practice more, then we making a good choice becomes easier and part of our nature.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Amrita Sundari, you know, she's made a lot of small choices. She's made 1,000 choices, being home, being a mother, being a housemaker. Obviously, she's made a lot of choices. Shall I turn on the TV? Shall I watch the afternoon soaps? Or shall I open the Bhagavatam? Shall I go shopping? Shall I go to the beauty salon? Or shall I open the Bhagavatam? Should I go to the gym or should I open the Bhagavatam? And we all know that in most of those cases, her choice was opening the Bhagavatam. And look how wise she is, and look how fixed and focused she is, and look at her family. And so it choices, you know, there's no such thing as a small choice. You know, every choice is going to mold you and shape you. There's a billboard now. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's against drunk driving. You've seen it, right? Going south on I-15, and it's got three drinks. It looks like beer. 3 drinks. And it says every sip has a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big campaign in Utah now. Every sip has a consequence. It's got one beer above it. It says injury. Another beer it says accident. Another beer it has death.
Mm-hmm.
Every sip has a consequence. So you think, well, I'll just have 1 or 2. I'll just have 10 or 20 sips. You know, it's not that consequences come after 20 sips. The consequences come with the first sip. There's no unimportant sip. See what I'm saying? So similarly, the kind of character, the kind of knowledge, the kind of peace that we just feel flowing from Amrita Sundari comes from having made the right choice 1,000 times. You know, in the home, when nobody's looking, nobody would know otherwise. But actually we do know, because when she opens her mouth, it's obvious she's made 1,000 right choices on 100 different days. And so let's be like that. You know, let's be strong, resolute, and determined in our private lives, in our recreation, in the time that we have to ourselves. Let's spend it to input the Srimad Bhagavatam, the prayers, the resolutions, and the successes of the great saints and sages. What it is doing is making our mind the same as the minds of the devotees, the same as the mind of Krishna.
Mm.
Enough choices, and you're going to find that you're going to be thinking like Krishna, like Kapil, like Rishabh, and that will result in happiness. Happiness for you, happiness for your family, happiness for everybody who hears the nectar coming from your lotus-like mouth. Amrita Sundari.
Well, Prabhuji, you're so kind. It's the setup that you have provided here, you know, to practice devotional service, and how you engage even like newcomers to give class, and you let them do so many things in the temple, you know. Otherwise, there's no platform for working it out, you know. It all remains a theory unless you play it out with people around you. And you know, devotees, they shape you up, they they scrub you up, you know. Without the chisel, you know, a marble piece doesn't turn into a statue or a deity, you know. And that's why to have a physical location and to have devotees around you who tell you you're wrong, who put you down, you know, they are your greatest helpers. And of course, people who encourage you. Otherwise, it gets very devastating to our egos and our emotions. So we need both, and you have provided that, you know. So that's where the learning takes place, actually.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm.
So, Ravi, do you want to say a few words by way of wrap up before we go back to the Sharma family for final conclusion in the kirtan?
Prabhuji, I second every single word you said about Amrita Sundari Mataji. She, like when she starts saying something, I don't want her to stop. And exactly same thing with your talk. I don't want, I don't know if it is offensive, but I don't have any interest in the prasadam. I just want you to continue. And it's like you are speaking directly to me. And I requested Amrita Mataji to come when I was working in Salesforce on the Diwali celebration. And she spoke, and everybody was amazed. They were asking me more questions, but I could not because I was managing the event, so I was busy in other things and looking after other things. I asked her, requested her to do the same presentation again for me and for the kids. I don't know when that is going to happen, but that's what I want from her. But again, what she said, Amrita Mataji said that being and listening to you guys elates me. So that's the reason. Like I went to the farmers market today, I jumped back and I said, let's go back. And in 20 minutes, I fixed the food so nobody could disturb me. That's my desperation to listen to you guys, every one of you. And I'm thankful. I'm very thankful.
We are also thankful because the prasadam and the nectarian knowledge is coming from the same household.
No, Prabhuji, your home is like has become the abode of kirtan. You know, kirtan is our prana in our Krishna consciousness. Kirtan gives us life. So very grateful, and especially I was telling, you know, whenever Shivan and Ishan join a kirtan, it enlivens. You know, the kirtan becomes alive. Thank you.
So, speaking of kirtan, it says, Akshno, I was reading, Akshno phalam todisha darshanam him. The perfection of the eyes is to see the devotees of the Lord. Tanu phalam todisha gatrashangam. The perfection of mixing, because so many people go to parties and all, is to rub shoulders, is to physically rub shoulders or rub elbows or hug the devotees of the Lord. Jivo phalam todisha kirtanam hi. The perfection of the tongue is to chant the kirtan. Why Sudula Bhatta Bhagavati Loke? Because devotees of the Lord are very, very rare. So we take advantage. So thank you. So of all the different choices and all the things that people are doing, 11 o'clock this Sunday morning, we've got 5 people on Zoom and we've got another 6 people on Facebook. So Manusharam Sahasrishu, very, very rare. We thank you for giving us your association.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for doing this every Sunday.
So, Jivo Phalam Kirtanam. Are you going to lead Kirtan, Kapil? I actually read something. Govindadev told me that Kapil he's going to lead Kirtan here in the future, right? You're practicing. Kapil has got as a goal to lead the Kirtan in the temple, to be actually scheduled for, I think it's Arti or something. And boy, I'm telling you, we are just like, wow, this is big. This is big.
We also planned the timing of it as well. It's the
Yeah.
day when we need the third temple here and we are doing the fundraising. I will do the kirtan, you lock it down, and if people want to go out, you charge them. And that will be our fundraising event.
I stand at the door with a pad and a swipe. No, I mean, not all kidding aside, I know that with Vanita as a wife and Ishan and Shivan as a son, you definitely have it in you. You just have to do a little of something of what the boys are doing, which is practicing. That's all. So we'll finish up with Kirtan. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been wonderful. Thanks to Jayashri, Jean. Jean has something to celebrate. Is that he has been fighting. He's been talking for weeks now about a health issue without saying what it is. But he tells us in the comment section today that he had prostate cancer, and apparently it's gone.
Oh, Krishna.
Celebrating what he calls the eradication of his prostate cancer. So,
Wow.
bold.
Oh.
Hare Krishna. Jai Sri Radhe again. Bhai Bobby jumped on here. Mahatma came on, as well as Brent and Pampadas. We're also being visited last night by Stoka Krishna, who's the original Prabhupada disciple. He worked to build the original Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, and he's visiting from Palm Springs for the weekend with a friend of his named Jim. I chatted with them, and they're coming to the Sunday feast today also. So thank you, Stoka Krishna Prabhu. Right. We'll finish up. I won't say anything after this. After the kirtan, we'll finish it. I already said thank you. I already mentioned all the people on Facebook. So I've said everything, probably more than I should have said. That's it. I'm not going to say anything more. I'm just going to sit, participate, and listen to the kirtan. And as soon as the kirtan's over, we're going to say till next time. Haribol. wasn't going to say anything, but I just wanted to remind everyone that next Saturday, Ishan is giving the talk at the Salt Lake City Temple. So don't miss that. It'll be broadcast live as well. What's the subject matter going to be, Ishan, so we can eagerly look forward to it?
I wanted to talk about engagement and how we can engage more in Krishna consciousness.
Engagement. Okay. All right. So that'll be next Saturday. Arti is at 6:30. Talk will be from 7 to 7:30, and there'll be kirtan afterwards. Also, I think Benita will be doing at least the Arti or the kirtan. Whenever a family is given the talk, we try and get the other family members to do the Arti, to do the Shringa prayers and everything. So it'll be the Sharma show in Salt Lake City next Saturday. Don't miss it.
Haribol.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Namo
Namo Namah